Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Sportsology, a mix of business technology and daily fantasy sports. I am your host, Ryan K. Bear with me today. I'm still a little bit under the weather, so my voice sounds a little bit funny, but I will do my best to try to sound normal today. If you're new to the show, Sportsology is essentially a mix of me coming on here, and I just want to talk about my two areas of expertise. During the day, I'm a technology solution specialist for a company called Enterprise Systems Group out of Little Chute, Wisconsin. That's my daytime gig. That's what I do. That's one of my areas I like to discuss. After that, we will switch over to daily fantasy sports. That is my favorite hobby. That's what I like to follow at nighttime after my kids go to sleep. And I'll talk to you about a couple of picks you can look at to play that day that are going to help you try to win some money. I will use DraftKings pricing simply because that is the platform that I typically use. Anyway, on to today's technology. And instead of fixating on a certain brand of technology, I'm going to address a question that's still relatively new in the grand scheme of things. But it's definitely a question that's coming up more and more as time goes by and as technology continues to progress. What I want to talk about is cloud versus premise based. Now, the majority of you watching this, at the very minimum, have heard the term cloud. It's going to be right for some people. It's not going to be right for some people. And for the technology novice, number one, a simplistic way to view the cloud, it really quite simply is something that is not hosted locally on hardware that you own. And like I said, this is a very, very simplistic view of it. For example, we've all used different types of cloud technology for a long time, even before the buzzword was around. For example, if you have a Gmail account, you don't have the hardware that's hosted on. It is out in the cloud. That is going to be what the cloud might be for somebody who is very, very a technology novice. Number two, a big important thing for you is understand the financial implications that go along with having a premise based system and making a capital purchase versus having a cloud based system. I promise you, I am not an accountant, so you don't want to go any further with me as far as how this is going to affect your business. But sit down with your CFO, sit down with your accountant, whoever it might be that you can get information from this, and weigh the pros and the cons of running something as a capital expense and having it as an outright purchase versus an operating cost versus it being an operating cost. That's going to differ depending on the business and what you're looking at. Now, also, number three, it is not as simple as saying that one is better than the other. Certain technologies will be better for certain companies in the cloud, others will be better for certain companies as a premise based. It is not a cardinal one size or one thing fits all for everybody. It's very similar to, for example, for your average person, leasing a car versus buying a car. It's going to be better for certain people depending on what they need for. And make sure you look at this from an analytical eye and not just jumping in because you think cloud is the right thing to do. All right, number four, for the IT folk, the owner or the CEO of your company says, we should put things in the cloud. Remember, depending on who it is you work with or who you're working for, that may not be the right way to go. And if you talk to them and show them it from an analytical side or from an analytical perspective, they might look at it a little bit differently. I've had a number of IT folks that I work with that tell me they want to look at something cloud-based. I ask them, well, why is that? And they say, well, the owner of the company says he wants to go in the cloud. And then I ask him, does he know why? Or does she know why? No, they just think that's the way to go. Generally, if you sit down with people like this, these are very, typically very rational people who have the best interest of their company at stake. Show them the benefits and the downfalls. They will have a better idea. A lot of times they just don't know because they're so busy with other stuff. That's not a personal or an area of expertise of theirs. Finally, number five, if you work for or own a small company without a dedicated IT individual, this is often where some companies can see the real benefit of cloud. If you don't have somebody boots on the ground within your organization every day, this is definitely an area where you may want to look at a cloud-based versus a premise-based solution, depending on what the technology is you're looking at. So I don't want to talk too much longer. I don't want to bore people. So that's the technology portion today. Now let's move on to a couple of NBA people you can look at to play tonight. Let's start out with Kyle Anderson of the San Antonio Spurs, who on DraftKings is priced out at 3,100. Kawhi Leonard was a late scratch tonight. He is doubtful this evening. Very unlikely he's going to play against the Lakers. The Lakers are below average in almost every sense of it, so very likely the Spurs can put up some good points on them. Give the younger guys like your Anderson and your Simmons some extra time tonight. Although I will give the Lakers some credit. They played the Spurs very competitively a few weeks back in San Antonio. But we can assume that if Anderson is in the starting lineup again at that 3,100, he'll be a very reasonable, a very safe, and a very highly owned person tonight. He would be what some people would consider the chalk. So Kyle Anderson's definitely somebody to keep on your radar. Now, on the flip side, Instead of talking about one guy, let's talk about a few guys, and I want to talk about the Phoenix Suns. Markieff Morris was dealt recently to the Washington Wizards. I've been telling you guys for weeks that the Suns were going to showcase Markieff Morris in order to show people what it is that they have, because he is a talented player. He was not happy in Phoenix after his twin brother got traded. Markieff had a couple of good games. They made the move to get rid of him. Now you have to look at guys like Teletovic, John Lure, Tyson Chandler, Alex Len. These guys should all see a bigger run of minutes tonight. Now, at the same time, we don't know who's going to be the run. If you've listened to me and if you heard about my patented 5x5 strategy for tournaments, these are guys you're going to want to sprinkle in your GPPs. Major upside. All of these guys have 6, 7, 8 times upside tonight, but they also cannot be relied upon. And that is why I wouldn't make them a staple unless like you feel like you want to go very, very aggressive. Anyway, that's what I got going on today, guys. If you enjoyed either pieces of information, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. I like to talk about both things, so if either of these things touch close to home, come on here and listen to me more often. It is sincerely appreciated. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you next week.